Rogers TV.
Coming to celebrate your art and each other's art. Thank goodness we postponed from last week, right? Because there was snow then, and there's no snow now, so it's perfect. I'm just going to start with a little introduction. My name is Sarah. I work here at the library as a youth services specialist. I've been running this Write at Your Library contest for about 3 years now, and it's one of my favorite things. I'm huge into writing and everything, and I see the importance of it with the library. A lot of writers come here to learn their craft and everything, so I think it's a great, it's like a love letter, the two together. I'm going to give a shout out to our judges. We've got Rebecca Diem here. She's the poetry judge, so if you submitted poems, Rebecca was the one who judged them. There's also Doug Archer, who is a local author. I'll talk a little bit more about them in a minute. And Richard Thomas. So Doug Archer and Rebecca, it was their first time doing it this year, but Richard Thomas has been doing it for many, many years. And Doug and Richard did the short stories. And thank you so much to Rogers TV and Whiteman TV for being here to record the event tonight. They're at the back, just pretend you don't see them. Again, I'm a youth services specialist here at the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library. Thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate your patience with the postponement and everything. I'd also like to take a moment this evening to recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg Nation, the people of the three fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. I'd like to thank the public libraries that serve Bruce and Grey counties for collaborating with us to put on this event in open participation to youth in their catchment areas. Is everyone here part of the Owen Sound Library, or is anyone from outside of the Owen Sound Library? We got one. Okay, that's great. I assume a lot of the people who are from outside, they're getting a little bit more snow than us. But the libraries that are involved are Bruce County, Grey Highlands, Hanover, Meaford, Southgate, and West Grey. They take a lot of time and effort to make sure that their teen patrons are able to participate in sending us the submissions and everything. So it's like a really nice group effort all around. And thank you so much to the United Way and to the Gingerbreads here in downtown Owen Sound. If anyone knows it, they both sponsor this anthology. So we've got the judges for this year's short story. Again, we're Doug Archer and Richard Thomas, and although they were unable to join us this evening, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about them just so you know who judged your stories. Doug is a local author, and we have his books here, A Cold Case Kids Mystery. It's a series. They're here at the library up in Youth Services. And Doug Archer wrote his first story about ghosts and zombies when he was only 11 years old, the same age as the Cold Case Kids from his book. He has loved writing about ghouls ever since, so he writes kind of spooky stuff. He started scribbling down ideas for the Cold Case Kids mysteries after a nighttime ghost walk through the streets of Southampton. All right, so his books are a little scary, but they're very fun and filled with adventure. I've read a few of them. And our other short story judge, Richard Thomas, is a videographer and author, so working with words is a central part of his life as well. As an author, he's penned the D.B. Murphy series of detective novels that are set here in Owen Sound, as well as several works of nonfiction focused on Owen Sound's history. And our poetry judge this year was Rebecca Diem, and we're so thankful that she's here joining us tonight. She is the Owen Sound Poet Laureate for 2024 and 2025. Rebecca Diem writes hopeful speculative fiction and poetry, and she's the author of the indie steampunk series Tales of Captain Duke. She is currently working on a postpartum poetry collection inspired by the natural world and beach walks with a sleeping baby. Sounds very peaceful and nice. Or maybe it's really intense, I don't know.
When he's actually sleeping.
Oh, yeah, when she's sleeping, exactly. So once again, thank you all for being here, and I'd like to get things started by announcing the winning cover design. So part of this competition is not just short stories and poetry, but it's also art. So if you didn't know that and you're an artist, you can always submit next year like a piece of art. Congratulations to Leo Baker for the winning cover design. I'll hold it up, and all of you are going to get a copy of the anthology as well, and you'll see it better in person, but it's gorgeous. It's sideways, but it was so beautiful we couldn't ask him to change it. And it's kind of like this gorgeous acrylic and ink, they said, is how they painted this. And each of the winners will receive their copy, and when we call you up, we'd absolutely love for you to read either your full poem or a snippet of your short story. I have a copy here that you can read from, and I've highlighted sections in that, so it'll be easy to just kind of read a little snippet. And we also have a few additional copies for purchase. They're $5 a piece. We've got them at the back there, and you can always reach out to me through email or phone, and if you want more, maybe as Christmas gifts or anything like that, and we can set that up so that you can come get them from the library. So we're going to start with our junior and senior short stories, after which we'll have a quick interlude where I'll share a few words about volunteering here at the library and what we've got going on program-wise. And then after our interlude, we'll conclude the evening with our junior and senior poetry. And whether the winner of each award is able to join us or not, I'm still going to read their name out and the title and a little snippet from their story or their poem as a celebration of their accomplishment. Okay, I hope you're all ready to come up and read. Because right now we've got our junior short story, first place winner, Allegra Tudor. Are you here tonight? Are you going to come up and read? Perfect. And the name of your story was Free as a Bird, right? Lovely. Okay, so just, again, can you talk a little bit closer to the microphone? And what do you think about this little snippet?
Yep.
From highlight to highlight? Okay, I'll step aside.
Okay. I set the flowers on the nightstand table and sat down in one of the chairs beside her bed. I reached out and gently grabbed her hand and brought it to my lips and kissed it. My dad hung up his coat, sat down and leaned over and lightly kissed her forehead. Then he sat down in the other chair, cleared his throat, and pulled out a book. A few minutes later, my mom woke up, and when she noticed that we were in the room, she smiled weakly. She squeezed my hand 3 times for I love you, and then blew a kiss to my dad. His eyes started to fill up, and he looked down. Mom, guess what? I asked her. What? She replied, the sparkle coming back to her eyes. I got 100% on my math quiz. That's great, darling. She smiled one of her smiles and then yawned. Dad stood up. I think we need to start heading out soon, Sarah. What? I cried. We just got here. Can't we stay a bit longer? Dad looked tired as he said, No, Sarah. Come on, let's pray. Ever since Mom got sick, we started a tradition where every time we leave the hospital, we stand, or sit in Mom's case, in a circle, hold hands, and Dad prays to God. My family are Christians, and our faith plays a huge role in our lives. God, we know that you're right here with us, Dad prayed. Please help us. Amen. I looked up, startled. Dad's prayers were usually a lot longer than that. He was obviously flustered. Mom looked confused too. Okay, Sarah, let's go. Say goodbye to Mom, said Dad. Bye, Mom, I told her, giving her a hug and a kiss on the cheek. I love you. Oh, love you too, sweetie, she said, returning my hug. Although she was weak, her hugs were always strong, and there was something about them that made you know everything was going to be okay.
Good job, and thank you so much for being the first person to read something. This is a copy of the anthology, and okay, thank you. Hey, you're welcome. Good job. Well done. All right, so now we are going to move on to our second place junior short story winner. And it is a story called Sentenced by Ryan Gills. Is Ryan willing to come up and read? Thank you so much. Wonderful. So are you okay with that snippet?
Yep.
There you go.
After what felt like an eternity, the door opened and a police officer walked in. He was a tall, stern-looking man with graying hair and tired eyes. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down across from Malachi and studied him. Malachi's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to say something, anything, to explain that he hadn't meant for any of this to happen, but the words stuck in his throat. "So," the officer finally said, his voice low and gruff, "you want to tell me that what you were doing in that house?" Malachi swallowed hard. His mouth was dry and his voice came out in a whisper. "I didn't mean to. We were just looking around. I wasn't going to take anything." The officer leaned back in his chair, still watching him closely. "You know how serious this is, right? Breaking and entering? You could be looking up for some real consequences here." Tears welled up in Malachi's eyes, but he blinked them back. He wasn't about to cry in front of this man. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." The officer sighed and rubbed his hand over his face. "You've got a chance here, kid, a chance to make everything right. But you've got to understand something. You're responsible for your choices. It doesn't matter if you were the one who took the coins or not. You went there, and that's enough." Malachi nodded, his head hanging low. He felt like the weight of the world was pressed down on him. He hadn't wanted this. He hadn't wanted any of it. The officer stood up and walked towards the door. "Your mom's on her way," he said quietly. "We'll talk more when she gets here."
Very intense. You'll have to read the anthology to see what happens. So here you go. Congratulations. Thank you. Good job. All right, we've got some cliffhangers. I don't know why I picked those sections. All right, and now we've got a third place winner. It's called The Road to Heaven by Eden Moyes. I'm going to read a little snippet because Eden's not here tonight, but just to celebrate their win. It begins with, "I tossed and turned in my sleep. I couldn't help remembering how it had happened. Mama wouldn't put on the hijab, let alone the burqa, and Daddy wouldn't make her. My older sister being taken by force to marry some man she didn't love, let alone know. The screams and the shouts, the man's grip on my shoulder. Gah, I gasped, sitting up, my body aching from the stone floor. I was wet with sweat, yet shivering from the lack of heat in the cell. Eunice, what is wrong, my child?" Mama sat up quickly. She had been on high alert ever since that day when they had taken us. "I was reliving it again," I answered. "Ah, I see," Mama responded. "It still haunts me too sometimes." I tried not to, but I knew that I looked surprised. She was supposed to be the strong one. I'm gonna end it on that cliffhanger too. And again, you all have a copy of the anthology. I hope you read it and enjoy it. These stories are very exciting. They're very well thought out. We have a couple honorable mentions as well. We have a short story honorable mention called Portrait of a Perfect Family, and this is by Vivian Oseande. The beginning goes, "If you were to take a walk throughout my house, you would find the walls littered with my work. Starting at age 4, my creative spark has led me to a portfolio so expansive that my parents haven't bought wall decorations for nearly a decade now. Although the beginning consisted purely of childish experimentation, mainly composed of messy paintings and crayon on paper, once I developed fine motor skills, color illuminated my world every day. I never quite outgrew my childlike approach to life. That is, until the incident occurred and there was a shift in my world. These days, you'll usually only hear of the incident during rambling sessions with my friends, while we refuse to studying in favor of mindless conversation. My friends know the story back and forth, but you haven't heard it yet, so I'll explain." Oh, that's going to be a thrilling story. I wonder what the incident is. And one more honorable mention. I will have to say that this year we had more honorable mentions than we ever had before, and it's really fantastic because it's just that the judges picked a first to third place and then had to do honorable mentions because there were so many good stories and poems submitted. And this one is called A Stand to Segregation by Irene Biwani. Irene is not here, right? So a section of that goes, "All right, girls, don't go too far. And don't worry, Miss Harris, we won't." Alice looked very excited as her mother never let her get out of her sight. "Come on, Helen." The girls turned the corner, delighted to see the different goods. Their smiles quickly turned to confusion as they heard yelling from the other aisles. Helen peeked into the next row to see a furious white woman practically screaming at an employee. The man she was screaming at looked confused and scared. Helen wondered why the woman was in the store like this. This was on the other side of town. Beside her was a young, smug boy. "Honestly, you and your people, How dare you stand up to me? The woman's screams were cut off when a young woman stepped up in front of her. Is that? Alice asked. The two of them were too scared before to talk, but Helen knew why she spoke up. In front of them was Mary Ann Shadd. Helen always knew Mary Ann was a rebellious spirit. She wasn't exactly bad, just stood up for what she believed in. And now she was standing up for this man. Helen admired her for that. She could never. Who do you think you are? The little boy scowled at her and hid behind his mother. Just then, Armand walked in. What is going on? She stopped. We're getting out of here now, and she sounded panicky. They quickly paid and left the store. Ma turned around and grabbed them both. You girls okay? Yes, we said in unison. As she sat in her room, Helen wondered what would happen to Mary Ann. She was so brave. Have to see what happens to Mary Ann. This is actually quite an interesting story about someone building their own non-segregated school. All right, so that's our short stories, our junior short stories. So we're going to move on to the senior short stories now. And just get to that area. I'm not sure, is Isabella Faith Young or Leo Baker here? Abigail Radstake? The very first senior short story, which is the Barbara Henner Memorial Award, is called Blue Sunrises, and it's by Isabel Faith Young. It starts with, I hate the sunrise, which is a fantastic opening line. It makes you want to keep reading. It wakes me up from the one thing I do the most, sleep. I was sitting in class, history. I tapped my pencil on the desk until the teacher, Miss James, told me to stop. I rolled my eyes and tapped my foot instead. A knock on the door woke me up a little. This knock on the door was the most exciting thing to happen during that class. The teacher opened the door and a girl with dark blue hair walked in sheepishly, and behind her, the principal. I stopped tapping my foot. Class, this is your new classmate, Francesca. She is deaf, but exceptional at reading lips. I assume everyone will make her feel safe and welcome, yes? The class broke out into a disarray of murmurs, mutters, and mumbles. The principal clapped and everyone stopped. I will repeat my words. I assume everyone will make her comfortable. He ground his teeth a little. Yes? The entire class nodded. Perfect. He glanced at the teacher and then at Francesca. You got it from here? He asked her. She nodded at him before heading to the only empty desk in the room, the one right beside mine. She put her bag down and sat at the desk, not sparing anybody a glance. Miss James started talking, but my eyes averted to Francesca. She was beautiful. That one seems like it might be a romantic story. Although I will say, it has a bit of a dark ending. So, it's a great story too. I mean, don't know why. And then the second place for this one is a fantastic story. It's by Leo Baker, and Leo Baker is the person who also designed the front cover design. So they won second place senior short story and the front cover. And this one is called, very fun title, The Farmer Boy Telling His Barely Friend He's in a Time Loop. And it starts like this. It's a story that's entirely written with just dialogue. It's just one person's dialogue talking to someone, and we don't actually ever meet that other person. So it's a very unique layout. And it starts with, man, you've got to help me. Every day is the same August day. Tell me, do you remember the Thursday we scraped our knees jumping off the river's ledge and into the water? Or the Thursday you told me about the meaning behind the faded stick and poke on your hip? One Thursday we spent the entire time making your favorite stir-fry. We ended up stuffed and asleep out front stargazing. I'm not crazy, I swear. Last time you said, prove it. Then I told you about your grandma passing and how none of the nurses called her Nuna. She said it like it was a sin upon her lips, barely uttered, but it had weight. Said it like it burned her throat, because she was no longer Marina. It had changed when you arrived. And when she died, it was while still holding your hand, and you let go before it got cold. You confess that sometimes you wonder if you had never let go, she would still be here, and warm. One Thursday, we ventured into the stuffy barn attic and dug out ancient yellowed comics. You were sprawled on one of the beams like some large sleepy barn cat and spoke about which superpowers we'd want. You'd say how you'd want to be immortal, but then switch to mind reading. said, every day wouldn't mean as much if we had them infinitely. And then, with a cheeky, lopsided smirk, said you could finally know what I'm thinking when my eyes go misty. And it goes on like that. Again, once we hit the senior stories, they start to get a little bit darker, but they're very entertaining. And finally, our third place winner for senior short story is called A Legacy's Twilight by Carden Penner. And Carden Penner also won some poetry awards. And when we do our poetry, after a little intermission, Rebecca's going to come up and help me read those. So this one, A Legacy's Twilight, third place. It goes, I woke up, the bells of the church across the street ringing in 7 o'clock. The bells hit back and forth and back, the pendulum continuing to swing, my hands continuing to turn. I got up. My coffee maker made a belch as it spat out the brown liquid into the jug. I took a sip. It was bitter, as usual. I hadn't cleaned the thing in months. Sighing to myself, I decided to skip coffee and get dressed. Maybe I could get to work before anyone showed up, before anyone noticed. I peered through the window of my apartment beyond the steeples of the jagged gray skyscrapers. I could just make out a crowd gathering around Parliament Hill. The crowd never slept, did it? It was immune to the cycles of the human, each person but a cell in its never-ending work. A work of creation, a work of destruction. At this point, I did not know. My suit was gray, a black noose perched on top of a dress shirt, hidden under a blazer. I looked at the mirror one more time. I adjusted my hair. Smoky strands fell out into my hand, and I contemplated them. I remembered when I had first taken the job. My hair had been a bright auburn, wavy, curling locks that graced my shoulders. I grimaced. It had passed through that phase a long time ago. It had gone on to be a brown, a rather pleasant one, then the same color as my briefcase. Now it was settling into a gray sludge, the color of my life, the color of me. This senior short story writer seems to understand the life of, office work pretty well. So that's our senior short story winners. Thank you so much. We're going to give a round of applause for those of us who read from the junior. That's fantastic. And again, I'd recommend giving all of these a read because they're very fantastic. And they're all very different. The tones are just so different. It's quite incredible. You've heard a lot of my voice, but I'm just going to give a little interlude. Please also, I didn't mention this, but if you just go into the hallway and take a right, there are the washrooms. There's also snacks and drinks at the back if you guys want anything. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the team programs and volunteering opportunities that we've got here at the library. Does anyone here volunteer with the library? I do recognize faces. It's actually fantastic. If you need your volunteer hours, you can come to the library for many different things and get them that way. For example, next year, my lovely coworker Katie, who let you in at the door, her and I are planning to run a combined workshop for the Write at Your Library contest, which is this, and then also the Grey Bruce Youth Film Festival. Has anyone ever applied for the Grey Bruce Youth Film Festival? Sometimes there's a crossover. That one is similar to Write at Your Library, but you can film a short film, I think no longer than 10 minutes, and you can use your phone or you can use any of the materials that are provided to you from your school, because some schools have film class, and you can submit it and potentially win prizes just like this contest. And we're hoping that our workshop can be a place where teens who are interested in either or both contests can meet up and discuss ideas, bounce stories off of each other, and get feedback in a friendly, unbiased setting with other people who are interested in the same things that you are. Which is honestly sometimes the hardest thing to do as an artist, especially a writer. It's like a very isolated art, so you're often working alone. It's nice to meet other people who have those interests along with you. We also hope to have some previous winners and some of the judges from these contests at the workshop to maybe give you some advice on how they won, or if they're a judge, give you advice on what they're looking for when they are judging your pieces. And then often the greatest enemy of a creator is finding that courage to share your pieces. So that's a nice setting to do that in, but all of you have already pushed through that by submitting to this, and then look, you've won, so it's worth it, right? So well done with the anthology. And we also have a selection of volunteer opportunities for teens, such as during March break, during the Owen Sound Mini Comic-Con. Has anyone ever come to that? It always happens in May. Nice, we got a couple. Yeah, it's really fun. It's always the first Saturday in May. It's fun to attend, but it's also fun to volunteer at because we'll give you pizza for lunch, and it's a full day of volunteering. You can check off a bunch of hours for your school volunteering, and we often encourage people to come dressed up in costume, which is always great too. And we do costume contests as well. So if you're a sewer or a creator, you can come dressed up that way. And if you don't want to volunteer, you can even just come and hang out. And then we have the Teen Advisory Group, which we call TAG. And through this group, teens share ideas about what they'd like to see program-wise here at the library. And you stay up to date with all of our volunteering opportunities, and you kind of get first dibs on our programs, sign-ups and everything. So there's lots of ways to volunteer at the library. If you're interested, we love having you here. And we also would love to see you at the programs and stuff too. If you have any questions about any of these things, you can reach out through email or call us. We'll give you all the information. We also have our website with all that information on it too. So if everyone's ready, we'll do the Junior and Senior Poetry Awards. I think we have one or two of the winners here that are going to read a little something out, which is fantastic. The Junior Poetry first place winner is Tristan Croft. I believe Tristan is here. Do you want to come up? Awesome. And the title of Tristan's story is The Effects of the Voice. Let me just pull it up here. There you go.
When the time comes, sing a song so beautifully, so potently, that even the stars cannot fathom the sound of your voice. For it will be so magnificent and strangling that whoever hears it will fall to a certain death, and will utterly perish in the abyss of your voice.
Very powerful. Okay, there's yours. Just stay here for 1 second. We've also got Rebecca is going to come up, and Rebecca very sweetly wrote a little note for each of the winners with her ideas, I assume, and ideas about the poem. And I think, do you mind staying up here with me? Okay, so Rebecca's going to read the poems because she is a professional. It's nice to hear change of voice too. So she's going to read the poems of the people who are not here or who may not be comfortable reading their poem out loud. So the second place junior poetry poem is called Tornado of Thoughts. Very interesting one, have fun. Oh.
All right, so this one is by a young poet named Chloe Jensen. When I worry, my thoughts begin to spiral and swirl like a tornado of negative thoughts that darkens my feelings as it spins, picking up every good thought and overpowering my body and mind. My head struggles to decide which thought to focus on. My heart is a drum that beats faster with each what if. My stomach turns with each change in thought. My chest tightens like a belt that squeezes as my fears grow uncontrollably. My legs shake like they are preparing to run away from my irrational thoughts. Thoughts about life when I'm older turn to panic, remembering those who I have lost, as I wonder if I will have a future, or will the last grain of sand fall. Thoughts of those I love violently turn to a paralyzing fear of losing another loved one from this world, a world I hide from for fear of rejection, criticism, a world that defines me as weird, a world I worry I will end up alone in. However, just as quickly as this tornado of emotions takes over, the sun returns and warms me with each comforting hug, a reassuring smile, a reminder to focus on the present, not the past or the future. The storm gradually calms, negative thoughts part like clouds, giving way to hope. My legs relax, my chest lightens, my stomach settles, my heart takes on a calmer beat. My head clears away all my clouded feelings. My mind and body are at peace once again, until the next storm.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. That is the second place. And then third place, I believe we have one of the people, this is a duo wrote this one. I think this is the first time we've had a winner where two people who submitted the same, like they worked together on the poem. It won. And it's got a very unique layout too. Maybe the, do you know what this layout is called when it's written in like stanzas like that? Yep, it's very interesting. It sounds very cool. It's by Jasmine Elliott and Emerald Sobey. Is Jasmine here? Wonderful, come on up. And this one is called Madman's Guilt. And is this based off of anything, Jasmine?
Yeah, it's based off of Telltale Heart.
By Edgar Allan Poe?
Yes.
Nice, okay, read that out for us, thank you.
My friend Emerald helped me write this too, but she's not here tonight. A pale blue eye, stare of a vulture. It made me want to die. I would never approach Sir. Every night at dark, I creeped into his room. I let a lantern spark and stood stiff like a broom. Cautiously for 7 nights, I did this like a cycle. I seemed to never have the frights. I was never very likeful. One more night soon became 8. He twitched just like a dog. I stood long enough, it was late. He croaked loudly like a frog. I stared just at his face. His eyes were wide open. Had he been sprayed with mace? I really wanted to choke him. I soon heard a loud thump. It came deep from his chest. I stood still like a stump. He was no longer at rest. I dragged him to the floor, squished him with a bed. I quickly locked the door. He was stone dead. Lifted the floor, shoved the corpse under. He didn't deserve to live no more. The police will wonder. I heard a quick knock. Answered the door. It was a cop, standing with horror. I brought them upstairs smoothly. Everything was set. They were not going to move me. They won't catch me without a bet. Quickly, loudly beating. I had to keep talking. Quickly, loudly repeating. It really kept on knocking. I couldn't stand the sound. It would not bother me no more. I yelled with my feet slamming on the ground. He's under the floor. Won't stand this torture no more.
Very spooky. And there you go. Okay, great. We'll see you next time. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And now if Rebecca wants to come back up and hang out with me, that'd be fantastic because we've got our 3 senior poetry winners. And we are going to start, we've got one from someone named Frida Oseande. And it's the first place winner, Florence Murphy Dabbs Memorial Award for Senior Poetry. Would you help me read this, Rebecca?
Do my best.
Thank you.
Okay. So why Sarah was laughing is that I emailed her right away and was like, this took my breath away when I read it. And it's a very emotional poem, so wish me luck. Okay. So yes, this is called Highly Sensitive and Flammable by Frida Oseande. I am learning to let my shoulders drop and allow my stress to roll down the curves of my body. The heaviness in my heart cannot weigh my legs down. There is still rain even where the sun shines brightest. I can still bleed and persevere. I prepare myself a simple breakfast, watching as flames burst in the pan. I reach for water, the hero, the good, that vanquishes evil and brings joy. The oil sputters and sizzles and screams. It's angry, I think, angry at me for letting the pan get too hot and turning away, pretending to care about the cracked eggs that spill on my counter. I smother the fire with a pot cover, and the stovetop is turned off, and the pan is burnt, and all the oil is gone. I reach for the handle, and my hand burns. It screams and sizzles, and my skin sings. The pan lands in my trash can, and I settle for a bowl of tasteless cereal, pumped with sugar. The milk mixes with my tears as my hand shakes to get a spoonful into my mouth. I can't swallow it. That was my mom's favorite pan, with a gray handle and a green coat and stainless steel. My dog died last Thursday. The funeral was quiet, and I didn't cry. But it's Sunday now, and my cereal is getting soggy, and I'm embarrassed to be alive.
It's so dark. Beautiful. Wonderful. And I think Frida also won an honorable mention that maybe you can read a couple, but we'll read one today.
It's very hard to judge. It's very hard to make choices.
That's fair, yes. That must be the hardest part of judging, is just all these quality stories and having to put them into spots when you know that they all deserve winning. So our second place winner is a poem called Auroras by Carden Penner. And Carden Penner is a veteran because they've won before for Write at Your Library. They've kind of been going through, I think, junior up into senior now. So if you are a junior submittee, the odds are hopefully you'll continue submitting and maybe be in multiple anthologies in the future. So do you want to read Auroras for us? Thank you.
I love this one because I remember that day in the spring when the auroras just opened up over the sky, and I thought that Carden did such a beautiful job of capturing that, and it was such a thing that connected our community. I thought it was really impressive. All right, so this is called Auroras by Carden Penner. I know there's school tomorrow, but I'm glad we're out today, looking at the night sky as we close off yesterday. I know I should be sleeping, but I'm glad I'm whisked away to stare up as the curtain flashes over the Milky Way. And though the cows are angry that we interrupt their sleep, and though the coyotes howl in the valleys, echoes that repeat, we look up at the sky and we're just in time for a treat. We watch the dancing colors fly, car's roof our only seat. I know there's school tomorrow, but we'll stare up at the stars and watch as the aurora breaks through our prison bars. From a brother to a father, I think it's quite all right to drive into the night and look up at the light. Though the car is nearly dying, we cannot contain our excitement as we drive down dusty country lanes, watching as the clouds make way to show the hanging moon, lighting up the threads of glass that weave a glowing loom. And as we look up at the stars, I feel so close to you, laughing as we realize we are just so minuscule, watching as our God above makes waves across the sky, watching as the curtains close as we turn off the lights. I know there's school tomorrow, but I'm glad we're out today. Even though it's near midnight, you still took me away. Into the night to watch the sky as flashed into day, into the night to watch the sky as it showed us a way.
So two very different poems there, both beautifully written, but in very different ways. Wonderful. And then we have a third place winner by Abigail Radstake, who I believe is also a veteran with us who has submitted multiple times and won in a few different anthologies. So this is the third place winner, Be Thankful by Abigail Radstake.
This was another happy one, which I was very impressed to see because, you know, when you're reading poetry, often it's like the deeper emotions that inspire you. And so I'm always very impressed when people can pull out like the hope and the joy in the world and write about that. All right, Be Thankful. The apples are falling from the trees, for soon shall vanish the honeybees. The sun sets sooner, the bird's chirp was once so vast, for now was the harmony's final song, its last. For the breath of autumn fills the air, marked by the gathering grizzly bear. Iced coffees are now out of style, pumpkin spice lattes win by a mile. For the dew turns to frost on the earth's surface, for the seasons move on with a purpose. For what purpose, you may wonder, for I'm not quite sure why there is rolling thunder. But autumn is the season of thanksgiving. It is the season to be thankful for the living. The leaves from the trees will now fall, for death is autumn's first and last call. But do not worry, it is not death by a knife, for soon everything shall come back to life. Although autumn will turn to snow, remember this: spring always comes back, so please don't miss it, for spring is summer's golden ticket.
That one is very cheerful and pleasant. Wonderful. And now I know that we have an honorable mention from, let me find it here. One of our junior poetry honorable mention winners has just arrived. So would you mind coming up and reading your entry for us, Pratt?
I don't know.
No, you got this. You're so charismatic. So this is Pratyush Magish Anand.
Pratyush Magish Anand.
Thank you. And the poem is titled very aptly, Snap. And this is one of our junior poetry honorable mentions. Just read it out. You good?
Do I have to?
You don't have to. You want me to do it?
Yeah, can you do it?
Okay. Do you want Rebecca to do it? Will you stand up here?
I'll stand.
Wonderful.
I'm very good at standing.
Rebecca is the poetry judge who
Oh,
picked this as an honorable mention.
I'm glad you thought it was good.
All right, let me pull it up here. Marvel fan?
Funnily enough, no. I prefer DC.
Okay, this is Snap by Pratyush Magish Anand.
Anand.
Anand. Snap. You say the words and it comes to life. You see the universe around you, the first atoms coming together by the forces you made so carefully. You make planets and weather. You see Earth and choose to bless it. You make small creatures, the first life. You see them slowly become. You see cells become plants. You see one creature and bless it with the blessing you will give to Abraham in the future. You watch it reproduce, making descendants more than the stars in the sky. You see as the creature you blessed evolves into others. You see the first of the Homo species. You watch as it evolves to have 2 legs. You grant it intelligence. You give these creatures your presence. You see them throw it away. You see them attempt to imitate you. You cast them down and make many languages. You watch as they worship your wonders, your sun, moon, and rivers. You watch as they become sinful and barbaric. You see cities, kingdoms, empires. You see Abraham's descendants. You see them oppressed. You extricate them from their oppression. You see them form 12 tribes. You have them reach the promised land. You see great men rise and fall. You see these people beg for a king and anoint one. You see him become wise. You see him fall. You see a lonely shepherd boy of the smallest tribe. You choose him to become king. You see him fall. You see the country in turmoil. You send prophets to stop these people from wickedness. You see 400 years of unchanging sin. You see humans create great new technologies. You see as they find more of your creations. You watch as they slowly advance. You see them attempt to intimidate you. Attempt to imitate you. You see as they go to your other planets. You see them attempt to imitate you. You watch as the universe advances as it always has. You see your own laws slowly make the universe slow down. You see the last star die. You see the last black hole evaporate. You see an infinity of nothingness. You decide to start again. Snap. Is that who I think it is?
Yes.
Oh my god, big fan.
Oh, Pratt, can you come back up for a second? Yeah, I've got a prize to give you.
Oh, sorry, I got hungry.
Here you go. This is your anthology copy, okay? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for reading it. Wonderful. All right, and then I think Rebecca would like to meet. We have a couple latecomers. We've got, is it Frida and Vivian, both Oceande? So if you guys want to come up here to receive your packages. And this is Rebecca Diem. Yes, that's perfect. And, thank you so much. So, one of you wrote short story, and one of you wrote poetry.
Yes.
Okay. With Frida. Frida, okay, perfect. Let me give you your packet. Here you go. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Frida, I have this for you as well.
Thank you.
Here you go. You're welcome. So thank you both so much for coming. I have read out a snippet of your short story, and Rebecca is the poetry judge and was the person who picked your poems as winning. And Rebecca's read out your first place win, which is fantastic. Do you want to read one of your honorable mentions? Would you feel comfortable doing that? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Let me pull it up here. So you can decide. You've got both Ocean of Stars and Love is a Politician. Frida won 2 honorable mentions in the senior poetry category. Do you know which one you'd like to read?
Love is a Politician.
Wonderful. All yours.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Love is a Politician by Frida Osayande. Love is a politician who fights for its best interests, and sometimes it fights selflessly for others' interests. Love makes promises that are double-edged swords, one side dripped in honey like ambrosia, and the other side covered with the most painful poison, lethal enough to kill. Love means to make all people happy, but some people never get a fair deal while bargaining with love, and others just seem to shower in it. Love keeps the poets from dying and the dead from rising again. It is steadfast like a lullaby and courageous on a bad day, courageous on a good day, angry on a bad day. The line that separates unconditional love is entangled in the weeds of fear that it will never be enough. Why give what cannot be reciprocated? Why run dry for someone who has plenty of wells? What good is loving someone who will leave you? Mulling over these questions has not given anyone an answer, because love is to be experienced, not questioned. Sometimes you have to be spoon-fed the love that comes your way before you storm into the world, hungry for a love that will fill you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frida. And Vivian, would you like to come read a snippet of your winning short story now that you're here? We're so lucky to have you guys. Let me just find the page here. All right, so when I read it, I read between there. So do you want to maybe read from there to there?
Sure.
Yeah, from 5th to there?
Okay.
Thank you. And just a little bit closer.
5th grade, the time it all began, looked something like this. I'd wake up on a school day, sing in the mirror before my shower, have a quick breakfast, and then splash cold water in my face before mulling over the ride to school because of the terrible mood cold water puts me in. I'd roll my eyes in annoyance at the 10 new vocabulary words my teacher wrote upon the board before sourly copying them in my language journal. Most schoolwork annoyed me because I felt self-expression was always encouraged but never truly valued. So I sought refuge in times like recess when I met up with my friends Anne, Mariah, and Katie. Though I was a bit introverted then, I made friends through a shared passion for art and doll collecting. In our free time, we worked together to produce drawings of dolls straight out of Lala Loopsy. When I got home after school, I indulged in the hobby I'd picked up over the summer of 4th grade, photography. It was really beginner material, but even then I had a real passion for it. I liked it, so I took photos whenever I could. Life was much simpler then. I could decide what I cared for and invest time into it.
I gave you a package, right? Thank you so much. So I read the first little snippet of that earlier. This is Portrait of a Perfect Family by Vivian Osayande, and that's the second little snippet. If we keep going, you might hear the whole story, snippet by snippet. But for now, we have one more senior short story honorable mention that maybe Rebecca will read. This is by a different author who hasn't had something from theirs read yet. And it's called The Fault of Man by Hayden Ruthven.
There we go. Okay. Okay. The Fault of Man by Hayden Ruthven. She looked out to sea, a deathbed of destruction, the world on its knees. Once a world of peace, but now a snow globe of smoke. Brown replaces green. Oh, how things have changed, not the world her fathers knew. Greed conquers morals. She sits at the end, SOS drawn in the sand. This, the fault of man.
That one is short and potent. All right, so those are all of our winners and honorable mentions from all 4 categories. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to those, and thank you for everyone who was willing to come up and get their award and read a little bit too. And thank you for coming tonight to celebrate all of this with our young writers. Before we finish up, I would like to offer you a little quote from a famous author that I think sums up the friendship between libraries and the act of writing very well. It goes, "If you want to be a writer, you must do 2 things above all others: read a lot and write a lot." So I hope you all have a peaceful holiday season, and I'd like to wish all of you wonderful things for 2025. Thank you so much for braving the snow and coming out. And thank you all so much for your reading, and thank you, Rebecca Diem, for helping me out up here. I got a little gift for you, and then
Just because it's my first poetry competition, do we have all of the award winners come up onto the stage so we can get a photo of you all together?
yes, definitely. Thank you for prompting that. We can stand like right over here.
Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
There isn't the same level of understanding back then that there is now.
We've matured.
We have matured.
We have matured.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this one still bothers me whenever I say it. Every 6 days, a woman is killed due to intimate partner violence.
And that number is starting to increase.
Wow. And I mean, there was one very recently. And you often hear, oh, there's been some sort of a shooting. And then all of a sudden you hear. But what gets me now, in terms of the intimate partner violence, and it sounds awful to say it this way, but the husband isn't just killing the wife. He's killing his family.
Yes.
Or whatever child is at home. So the recent one was a mother and daughter. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, how can you kill your partner, let alone your child? Yeah. But it seems to be on the rise in the way we hear news now. Mm-hmm. And that bothers me.
And statistically, what we're also starting to see is, we call them femicides, when a woman is murdered by their male partner. Okay. We call them femicides. Femicides in teenagers.
Ooh.
Is starting to get noticed more. That's starting to increase. So teenage boyfriends killing their girlfriends.
Why? That's a $64,000 question. I know.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And I don't know.
I mean, for a while it was sort of bullying and girls and different things, but now if it's ingrained that this is the rationale to do it?
Well, it's the rationale, and it's the belief system that he has control and ownership over her.
Over a person,
and
another person.
Yeah. And the majority of times when a woman is murdered by their partner, whether it's a teenager, whether it's an adult woman, whether it's a senior citizen, it's when he starts to notice or realize that she's thinking about leaving or she's just ended the relationship. That's
so
when she gets murdered. And that's why shelters were created in the first place, is because we know the time that she is most likely to be killed is when she leaves. And that's why we have women's shelters, and why women's shelters have bullet-resistant glass and alarm systems and emergency plans, because we know the women who come into our shelter are at the greatest risk of potentially being murdered.
And overall, you have such a safety net around your building.
Yeah.
And probably the local OPP on speed dial.
Yeah, all of our staff carry panic alarms, and it's not about what happens inside, it's about the potential for risk outside.
It's quite amazing to me. This statistic I find low, considering we're how many 40 million people in our country, 4,000 arrests each year due to gender-based violence in Canada. That's really low. Are you finding in the statistics, because I know you see them, when it's an intimate partner murder, I've heard some reports where they also kill themselves.
Yes.
But then there are many that just go into the legal system. And it's kind of, I don't know if it's a sense of despair that I don't want this family to exist anymore, and we wipe them out. We wipe out the partner, we wipe out the kids, then we kill ourselves, or we're just chickens.
I don't know. Or they realize what they've done.
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
We're just about up to our next break. Are there shelters for men?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
There are no shelters for men, and back to sort of what I was talking about earlier. Men are abused.
Yeah. Yes.
But men lives aren't at risk.
Okay.
And
that's the biggest difference.
That's the big difference. And women have less access to economic resources than men do.
And that's something we'll talk about when we come back, because we've got to talk about housing, which is a crunch throughout the country.
It is.
Food insecurity. And guess what? You have a courage campaign.
We do.
So courage is important for women, for children, for families. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that.
As I looked upon the battlefield in front of me, a German star shell lit up the desolate landscape. I watched as a bullet smashed through the bridge of my nose and left me to the mercy of the darkness. I worried I would be dependent on others for the rest of my life. But Sir Arthur Pearson and the staff of St. Dunstan's had other plans. With their help, I knew I could be self-reliant, and I wanted to bring this idea home to Canada. I wanted Canadians to know that we could hold jobs, that we could contribute, that regardless of sight, all would read, that we, the blind, would shape our own lives, our own destiny.
Blinded by a sniper's bullet in 1915, Edwin A. Baker went on to co-found the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, shaping a path forward for the blind across Canada for generations to come.
They've reached the summit! Back-to-back Stanley Cup victories.
Greatness.
And a new legacy begins. Absolutely amazing. It has happened in Vegas.
It's not a destination.
And lightning has struck twice.
It is a continuous journey that never ends.
These are the moments you dream of. Stanley Cup champions.
welcome back. I'm in conversation with Alison Fitzgerald, the executive director of My Friend's House, and we're talking about funding our shelter, but also I'm really stressing the importance of our shelter. We need you. We need you here. I can remember when it was built, and I think he was the economic development officer at the time, Joe Sheffer. We've got the money. Yeah. We can do it. And I went, great. And this is like temporary? Like we're going to deal with this? And yeah, no, you're still here.
Yep, we are. Thankfully.
You're still here. So your Courage campaign. Describe to me what that is.
Yeah, so November is Women Abuse Awareness Month, and that leads into
our Purple Month.
It's the Purple Month,
Yes.
and then that goes into December, ends on December 6th. Okay. And so it's the month where we try and do what we can to raise awareness about the issue of intimate partner violence, around gender-based violence, and we launched a Courage campaign a couple of years ago, and really, when we talk about courage in terms of the Courage campaign, is that it takes courage for a woman to leave an abusive relationship, because they're entering into a world in a life that they don't know anything about. They don't know what's going to happen next, and they have to trust strangers to support them, and they don't know how their children are going to be, whether or not their family is going to judge them. There are so many unknown issues, and
what their community will think.
Yeah,
their immediate community, their broader community, their church community.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So we really like to honor women who are in abusive relationships and are thinking about leaving, or who have left, because we recognize it takes a lot of courage, and we are asking the community to acknowledge that courage as well by donating to My Friend's House, so that we can continue to support them on their journey.
Do you have any statistics like what it costs for a day to run My Friend's House? Ish. I know. I don't send you these questions ahead of time because I haven't thought of them yet.
As I had said earlier, we're a $1.7 million organization, and so in terms of what it costs for an individual woman or child to live in our shelter, it hovers around like the $300 mark per person per day, and which adds up significantly.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but with that, if you think about it, it's not only the counseling and support that we give them, it's putting food on the table, it's paying the electricity
putting toilet
bill,
paper in the
hiring a plumber when we can't fix it ourselves. It's all of those things as well.
Now, if somebody's at home going, okay, My Friend's House, do you let men in?
We don't.
You don't? Okay. It's a female building.
Yeah, it's a female building, and
somebody asked me that question. I thought, I don't think they do.
Yeah. We do in terms of contractors.
It's a
people that are helping
organized.
And we do involve men on our board.
Yes.
And we are so happy to receive male volunteers as well, because we do believe that this is a community issue, and men need to be part of the solution as well. But in terms of the services
some men are part of the problem. Some men can be part of the solution.
Part of the solution, absolutely. Yeah. And so in terms of the shelter itself, it's women only. And there's often a myth too that we don't provide service to male children, which I don't know where that comes from. So if that's out there, correct it. We do accept male and female kids as well. Yeah.
Because they didn't choose their sex.
No, they didn't.
And this is their mom, and their mom is their... Usually, I would say probably in 95% of the home environments, mom is the real touchstone.
Exactly. And we have been around long enough now that we now see men who were at our shelter as kids, and they come and they support us now, right? Which is incredibly encouraging to see that, because they came to the shelter, and because I'm sure all of the work that mom did in teaching her children that there could be a different way, stopped that
cycle. We used to call it the cycle of violence.
That's right. We did.
We've been doing this a few times.
Yeah, we have.
Unfortunately, we've been doing this a few times. What sort of donations other than money can you accept?
Yeah, so we actually do maintain a wish list on our website as well.
Perfect.
So if folks don't want to donate money, essentially we ask for in-kind donations of things that you would normally buy in your households. Like we need shampoo, we need paper towels, we need all that kind of stuff. Or, you know, purchase gift cards for us so that we can go to Walmart and pick up supplies for the shelter or for mom, that kind of thing as well. So yeah, donations of stuff, but we have to be particular about what it is that we accept, because we are a small shelter and we have no storage space whatsoever.
Room. Okay, that's
and that's why we say gift cards are better than even stuff. Then we can bring it in when we need it. And we don't accept things like clothing or furniture and all of that kind of stuff. We wish we could, but again, we just don't have the resources or the room to handle that kind of donation.
Do you ever help a woman move to another community?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We do.
You can help with relocation.
Absolutely, we can. And we often will connect with a shelter in that community that serves that community to, support her in looking for housing and all of those kinds of things. But yes, if she moves to another community through our resources or the partnerships that we have developed, we will help that woman move to another community as well.
Because it's sort of, it's one thing to leave home. It's one thing to go into a shelter, but some people do need what they call a really fresh start.
They do.
Or for their own security.
And with the housing crisis in our area,
that's expanding boundaries.
A lot of our women aren't necessarily able to find a place to live in their community, and they have to consider moving to a different community as well.
And COVID exacerbated that because Collingwood didn't have a bad number of reasonable rentals. I mean, even in family homes and things. I know in my neighborhood there was a lady who had rented a home for many, many, many years. Good tenant, took care of the place, was raising her family there alone, could afford the rent. And then the real estate explosion happened. And the person who had that, probably the owner had rented maybe to 2 or 3 families through the years, cashed in on the real estate. And all of a sudden it sells, and somebody else, so what they might have paid $1,500 for, all of a sudden became $3,000. And that meant they had to move because they couldn't afford.
Exactly.
And I think that financial tightrope, do you do any financial counseling as you go along?
Yeah, we do.
Understanding what everything costs.
Absolutely. And for a lot of women, they either weren't allowed to be involved with the finances or have lost confidence in themselves and their own skills. So we actually, in addition to our transitional legal advocacy worker, we actually have a transitional life skills worker. And that's exactly what she does. She helps women build their confidence around budgeting, around financial decisions.
And understanding the world today.
Yeah. And
not the world from 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Exactly. And for a lot of women, they're going from maybe having in a partnership where there's an income to her having to apply for social services. And what you receive on social services, quite frankly, is
not a lot.
Not a lot. And so women have to get really creative around how to even grocery shop to make ends meet because there's not much of an allowance on social services to make ends meet in this day and age.
And if you're a mom with two growing kids, there are certain things that you need to have.
Yeah, exactly.
There are always some wants, but there's often no money at the end of the month.
That's right. And that's why we're seeing so many people, the increasing demand on food banks and women who are leaving our shelter who are on social services. We are able to get them started and set up, and we are able to support them in a little bit in terms of food security. But ultimately, the majority of people who are on social services or any kind of fixed income is probably going to the food bank right now.
Yeah. Again, our national broadcaster on the radio listened to another program talking about food banks because they're a big thing with drives and right now. And they said there are a minimum of 9 million clients going to food banks, and of those, 50% have university degrees.
Yes.
And when you stop and look at that, it's 4.5 million people who got what is known as the better education to help them get ahead in the world. And they cannot make ends meet.
No.
So our society is suffering, and everybody's suffering.
Yes.
And I think that it's another one of those insecurities that, I mean, we have fabulous programs here. We have the Good Food Box, where people can get a great big box of
incredible,
wonderful food for a minimal price. That can be budgeted in.
Yeah.
And depending on the season, it's amazing what they can get. And you can learn to be very creative with. Do you teach cooking courses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, we do.
So
We do.
I know the United Church also runs a crock pot program,
Yes,
which
they
is
do.
another wonderful thing. I mean, we are very blessed, and I will say this every single time. We live in a community that cares, but we have so many needs now.
Yeah.
And when I look at the shelter, you're the unsexy charity. I'm gonna state it right out,
I'm not
because
offended.
you're
We
not
are.
you're not a feel good.
Yeah.
You're not a feel good.
Yeah.
But you are a feel good.
Yeah.
Because in this case, we're helping womankind and family kind.
And it's true. We're giving hope, and you know, when I think about how long we've been open for, and we average in terms of the shelter alone, we average about 100 women or 100 families per year, and you think about us being open for 30 plus years. That's a lot of women and kids that we've helped and given hope to, and who have, you know, moved on to a happy life.
And also who have not become some form of a statistic.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, we have, unfortunately, in our history in this area, we have had some murders.
We have.
I think early on was Arlene May.
That's right.
I've never forgotten her name, never forgotten where she lived.
I remember that night.
And she was murdered.
Yeah.
By her partner.
Yeah, it was International Women's Day, and I remember.
I've forgotten that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had come off of shift, and saw all these police cars going to Craigleith.
And that's what happened.
I knew.
Yeah. Did you follow them?
No.
No. Okay. But you knew about it pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's tough. Have we had that many murders in the area?
In the last.
Or losses of life?
Yeah, in the last 5 years, we've had 3 murders.
Wow.
So statistically for our area, that's
high. That's very high.
It is high. In my career, since I've been working at the shelter, there's been 8.
Wow. And that's 8 too many.
Yes.
Most definitely 8 too many. So when we come back after the next break, as I always promise, this goes quickly, we'll have one more segment. And during the break, I want you to think about what you'd like to share with our audience. Because I've always got questions, but there might be something you want to let them know. So join us when we come back.
With Rogers TV, you can cheer on the home team from the comfort of your living room. We'll head to the rink, the field, the court, or the pitch, so you don't have to. Tune in and cheer on your local amateur athletes on Rogers TV.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrive Alive smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Welcome back. We're talking My Friend's House, which is our emergency crisis shelter for women and their families, meaning their children. We don't bring the abuser along. And we're talking to Alison Fitzgerald, who is the executive director. Do you find that you get abusers showing up at the shelter?
It's rare.
It's rare.
It used to
Okay.
happen a lot
Yeah.
more
Okay.
in the early days,
Yeah.
but I think it's fairly well known that we have a fairly solid security system, so it's rare. And I think that's an important question, right? Because women who are coming to the shelter, they need to know that they are safe.
Yeah.
And we are safe.
They are safe.
Yeah.
How do they get into the shelter? Do they phone you? Do they?
Well, if they know where we are, they can just show up and ring the doorbell.
Okay.
That's absolutely fine, because
Okay.
sometimes it's a spur of the moment thing and they just got to go, and so just show up. We will welcome them in and we will figure it out.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I like that can-do attitude.
We're always solution focused, but most women will call our crisis line, and then we can sort of talk about strategy when they want to leave, or maybe they just want to talk as well. We do have a 24-hour crisis line, so if a woman has an opportunity to talk at 3 o'clock in the morning, then that's fine.
There's somebody to talk to.
Call, yeah.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So I'm going to come back to money, because I think we need to learn to spread our donations around. And I think some things, do you ever have kids give you donations?
We do.
I think that's the most
They're the
darling
most
thing.
fun too, because they sort of in lieu of birthday gifts at a birthday party, they ask kids to donate.
And there's no amount too small.
No, there isn't. And that's the thing. Every little bit helps, whether it's $5 or picking up an extra roll of paper towels and collecting them and donating them. That all helps us not have to spend money on those
money you
items.
don't have.
Money we don't have, and we have to ask people for. So every little bit helps for sure.
And in the break, I was saying perhaps we could challenge people. Don't buy one coffee. Put that money aside.
Absolutely, yeah.
And after a month, you might find
you got a little
bit,
change.
and,
And you're sleeping better at night too.
Well, true. Not quite as much caffeine. And I mean, we also have very supportive businesses.
We do.
I mean, I'm thinking of Tim Hortons and their Smile Cookies. We have a lot of businesses out there that do it quietly.
Yep, we do.
We have a lot of other ones that just try and find something to do that raises profile, which is
they're
also good.
always stepping up. And there's a lot of charities in this community, in the Southern Georgian Bay community, that are all asking for help, right? And our businesses get asked a lot, and we really do need to appreciate them. And so right now, the Royal Bank in Collingwood is helping us with our Courage campaign, and so we so appreciate them for. They actually sent over a volunteer group to do our yard cleanup this fall, which was fantastic, and donated $1,500 as well, which was so appreciated. So businesses are pretty creative around how to help and
stepping up and helping and doing.
And we wouldn't exist today if it wasn't for the communities that we serve supporting us in all the ways that they do.
Now we say South Georgian Bay, we mean
Wasaga Beach, Clearview Township, Sustainer as well, Collingwood, Town of Blue Mountains, and Meaford is what our sort of service area is.
So
it's
a
quite
true
large.
band along the bottom of the bay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
It is
because
a lot
the
of people.
population has exploded too.
It is. It has. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, what haven't we talked about that relates to My Friend's House? What don't I know?
There are so many things. Well, you know a lot, but there are so many things that need to be talked about, and there just isn't the time. But ultimately, I think what people need to know is that we at My Friend's House have such an incredible range of programs and supports for women and children in our community, and there is no such thing as a wait list at My Friend's House.
Okay.
And so if a woman needs help, the first call she makes, she's not going to be told to wait. That I think is incredibly important. And I think that that's unique about My Friend's House. A lot of services have to do wait lists, but we don't because we're staffed 24/7. So, and they're trained counselors on the phone, and so they will provide support right then and there, and then we'll figure it out. I think that's incredibly important.
Well, and it's something that people may not perceive. Oh, it's 2 a.m. Oh, it's 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, I'll do it later. The great. What are there indicators that we as the average citizens who thankfully have not experienced abuse should notice?
Oh, that's tricky as well. I think ultimately, if you're noticing somebody in your family or maybe a colleague that is starting to withdraw, used to come out with you and now all of a sudden she isn't when she's in this new relationship. I think that's really important to notice.
Red flag number one.
Yeah, or you know, if you invite her out and she's all of a sudden nervous about, oh no, I can't, or says that she can and then cancels all the time. Something's happening in her relationship that might not be good.
Okay, so let's take that to the, if we notice that, what should we do?
You,
as their friend, or family
as their
member.
friend, if you have an opportunity to have a conversation privately, is let them know that you've noticed that things have changed, that you
not in a critical way.
Not in a critical way, that you're worried about them, that if something's happening in their relationship, that you're there to support them. But that you will never make them do something that they don't want to do. Because a woman who is in an abusive relationship needs to know that she has control, because only she can assess the safety of what is next for her. And don't ever confront the abuser. Because if you do, that's him realizing that the secret is out, and she will be consequenced for that.
And they rely on the secrecy.
Exactly, they do.
They rely on that power of control with the women.
Yeah, and if a woman is saying that there's something's not right in my relationship, believe her. Don't question her. Don't challenge her. Don't say, oh, he's a good guy, because you don't know.
Yeah. Do we find, have you ever been surprised at who has come through your door at some point?
No. No, I haven't, but there would be many who would be.
Would be, okay.
I've been doing this work since the age of 13, so so I have a different perspective, and I understand that abuse does not. What am I trying to say? It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. It doesn't matter how successful you are or not. Abuse is throughout society. So no, I'm never surprised when I hear that. But others.
So it's an all accepting.
Yeah, an all accepting
environment.
That's right.
The have you seen, I'm going to say, trends in terms of alcoholism versus drug abuse versus how they tie into physical violence, or is one more prone, or?
Not really. Not really. I mean, there's just as many.
Lots of stressors.
There are lots of stressors, lots of factors, and there are many women who come into our shelter where their partner isn't suffering from any kind of addiction at all, or any kind of mental health. Yes, there are some where that is in fact the case, but I think we try and excuse the behavior because of addiction or mental health, but ultimately it might heighten it, it might exacerbate it, but it was always there.
Do we know what causes, I guess we have to go into the psychology, what causes the feeling that you are smarter, better, or more in control of someone else's life? And you know better what they should do?
Yeah, I think that's the society that we're in. It's a belief system, not so much now, it's challenged more now, but it's a belief system that's been taught from a very young age for
everyone.
years.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think there's also the world of the religious cultures.
Yeah.
There are some religious cultures where the man is the top of and his word is gospel. And control is definitely a part of their culture.
Yep, absolutely.
So that can also lead to...
That can be a factor. Yeah, that's very prevalent in most religions. Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah.
Wow. And as this area is diversifying,
yeah,
we're no longer a waspy society.
No, we're
not that doesn't come with its own issues.
Oh yeah, because the rates of abuse doesn't matter what the makeup of the society is or what the community is. The rates remain the same. Yeah. Because it's just in prevalence. It's prevalent in a waspy society as it is in any other community.
So is violence on the rise? Decline? It's on the we're going up.
Increasing.
Okay.
We're seeing it increase again. There was a time where once in a while we would see a woman in the shelter who was significantly physically assaulted. We're starting to see that a lot more now.
Okay.
So again, is it because there are so many more stressors in our communities right now compared to what it was 10 years ago, probably. But again, it's hard. It's really hard to know.
And I often think one of the major stressors is money, financial. And at a time when we're housing insecure, we're food insecure, costs on everything are on the rise. Absolutely. And I mean, I know they've raised minimum wage, but there are a lot of people at minimum wage. It still doesn't cover what it costs to live.
No.
And there are a lot of people out there that are cobbling together jobs. Kids are working to try and contribute to family incomes. And I think it can create another environment for a family.
And in a community like ours where it's the tourism industry is a big factor, is that there is service industry jobs for the most part, right? There aren't necessarily there aren't the businesses that are high paying.
Yeah, they're not high paying, and they're not. A lot of them are part-time jobs that are cobbled together, which means there are no benefits.
Exactly.
And then there are people who are trying to put things together. So as we approach Christmas, your website is
myfriendshouse.ca.
Very simple. And I encourage everybody, please go look at the wish list, look at the house, and realize that we have, I'm going to say, a fantastic model for helping people who need help.
Yeah.
And consider it this, I'm blatant, consider it this Christmas to put it on, your year-end donations.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, and on that, we have a postal strike right now. We don't know how long that's going to go. So for those folks who are used to writing a check, please consider doing an online donation instead to whatever charity you support, because we rely heavily on Christmas giving to get us through the rest of the year as well. So and that's similar for most charities.
Yes.
So if you mail in a check, which we so love because we love the cards that come with them, please do an online donating instead.
Would you ever consider getting a place where you could have a separate place for a drop box for checks?
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
Maybe your bank would put it,
That's an interesting idea.
It would be a really great way. And guess what? We're out of time. So thank you, Alison Fitzgerald, and we'll see everybody next time.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Where will you win?
The opening tip. We're underway. Here is Prince. This is slow. Canada. The NBA title is yours.
As we welcome a new era. Where will you hear the story?
Right to the rim with a slam dunk.
Catch the highlights. Dive into tapes.
It spins.
Where will you be when? Right here. Raptors basketball. Nothing but Sportsnet.
You're watching Rogers TV. This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is the mayor of the municipality of Kincardine, Kenneth Craig, and it's good to see you again, Craig. Or Kenneth, Craig. Kenneth.
Born with two first names, David. Hi, I'm glad to be here again.
Yes, and this is not my first show for the day, so I'm a little, so I'll take that. We'll take it for what it is. Anyway, it's good to see you. As we're about to tape this, we're just about probably the next 48 hours to get a major snowstorm. Are you ready?
We are ready. I was confirming with our staff some of the, just in passing, kidding the men and women on the plows. You got all the harnesses on, you got all the snow tires on, and yeah, they've been ready for a while. So being late for a snowstorm in Bruce or Grey County is not a good thing.
But it is reality.
Reality.
It is reality. And I recall a person who is in human resources in one of our larger employers saying that first there were two things that they said right off the top to every new hire.
What were those?
Buy a good winter coat and get snow tires for your car.
Snow tires, absolutely.
So, hey, we live in Grey Bruce, and we got to live with it.
Okay, so what's on the agenda for today, David? I look forward to our conversations.
I wanted to talk first about something that is actually becoming more, don't say more common, but it has appeared on more municipal agendas, and that is council replacement. And you recently had, and we talked about this the last time that we talked, was the passing of Doug Kennedy, who was a longtime municipal councillor, civic, citizen member, real important, very significant member of the community. He passed away, and you as a council had to replace him on council. And what actually did you do?
Well, we had the option of either appointing a council member from applicants that we had notified the public that we were doing it, or we could have had a by-election. The option that our municipal council chose was to appoint someone. We had 9 very qualified applicants submit their resumes and applications. We had a special council meeting where each one of the applicants had 10 minutes to address council to put forward their experience, their passion for the job. And then there was a voting process following whereby we appointed Stelina Williams as the Ward 1 councillor to fill the seat caused by the passing of Councillor Kennedy. Stelina brings a wealth of experience from the private and actually provincial government context. She is involved in policy and strategic development in her workplace now. There has been a seriously steep learning curve for her to get used to all of the procedures, everything from getting your new email address to all sorts of things. Celine is a very, very capable candidate. We look forward to working with her for the next couple of years.
Great. Well, it's always good to know what the process is so that people can have confidence in our municipal government. It's these things happen, unfortunately. And
well, you're never really sure, David, whether you should go the by-election route to let the people speak again, or whether you make we are elected to represent the people. And each one of the 8 councillors around the table take it very seriously that you represent the desires and the aspirations, the hopes and fears of all the constituents. So we took that responsibility very seriously in our consideration of the candidates.
There's also an economic argument that by-election can cost a lot of money. And
well, it's nearly the cost of a regular election. So we do we do budget to put into reserves monies to cover the cost of the election every 4 years. So there is some in that reserve fund now, but somewhere along the line you got to pick up the cost of that by-election. So it is it is a decision that expedites the process, saves a little money, and you only get as good a candidate as who applies. And there were, as I said, 9 very capable candidates applied.
Great. Well, let's move on to something that is actually on every municipality's agenda right about now, and that is budget.
Yay, budgets.
What, 300, 600 pages? Those budgets are massive documents.
The county council was 400 and some. Our municipal budget is 225 pages, something like that. It is a document that our staff works on ever since our budget was passed last year. And you got to give credit to the team that crafts that enormous document.
Now, do you separate capital and operations?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there are 2 separate budgets. Where are you at in the budgeting process?
Well, we had some really preliminary discussions in September. There were no reports. Well, there was a report presented by our Director of Corporate Services, and we received that and saw some of the factors that were going to be affecting our budget. These are the things that are coming that some of them we can't do anything about. Some of them we can consider whether we need to add new initiatives. It was a very high overview. We've had another couple of conversations, not quite so in depth, about our expectations of the budget, what potential tax increases or decreases we would be comfortable with. They weren't supported by economics, but more a sense of knowing your community and the politics involved with budget presentation. And then we have our first in-depth budget meeting on the 10th of December with the hope that budget will be passed the end of January.
Right. So, hey, Merry Christmas.
It's a great Christmas. Every Christmas is a great Christmas.
With the budget.
With the budget, yes.
With the budget.
Well, if you get insomnia over the holidays, you just do some of your favorite reading.
One of the factors that has certainly risen to the top in almost every municipality across Ontario that is policed by the OPP is the new costing of OPP policing. I've seen horrendous increases in the media, well into two figures. Some are much more reasonable. But has that affected the municipality of Kincardine at all?
Yes, it has. The municipality of Kincardine for a number of years supported independently a school resource officer. It was a position that was a liaison between youth, their parents, the police services, and it had been a cost that we had considered valuable in our municipality for a long time. Last year, after considerable debate and trying to understand the value of this, both from a school board perspective, from a school perspective, from a municipal perspective, we chose to discontinue that work. So there was a decrease in our school budget, which has affected the net increase this year. We did not actually, well, we saw a small increase, but having said that, we had paid for additional police services in years past. So there is a reduction in service, which is the nature of considering your budget. If you want to cut the budget, then you reduce services. That's the way you do it. So we had already reduced some of the services. So the increase this year is not as significant as what some other municipalities are facing.
Right, right. Because the OPP almost has an a la carte kind of policing system. You can choose from the services that they provide, I believe.
Well, there is some negotiation that every municipality has the ability to engage in. Now with the Joint Police Service Board, there is maybe a region-wide service level rather than individual municipalities. So we are, providing policing in our municipality that maintains the past service levels. This year, as I said, the price won't be that much different because of reduced levels a year ago. But, safety and security is an issue that will remain front and center in a lot of people's minds. The times they are changing, David.
Yep. Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation as I talk to municipal politicians across Grey Bruce. It is an issue that's on everybody's mind. So
absolutely,
we shall see. We shall see. Well, let's move on to dare I say your favorite topic, the official plan of Bruce
plan
at Bruce County.
and I think maybe half your listeners just left the call because oh my gosh, we're going to talk. There has been kind of a perfect storm, but in a good sense, of the completion of multiple documents that are making a significant impact on the municipality of Kincardine. The Bruce County official plan is nearing completion, and part of that planning process is the recognition that many municipalities through the county are requesting urban boundary adjustments, little bits of land here and there that are most likely agricultural. But as municipalities, as urban centers grow, there is continuing pressure to expand the residential, and also industrial, commercial employment lands. There's always pressure to absorb some farmland. So the county has proposed some. There are some landowners who have requested boundary adjustments as well for a number of reasons. At the same time as that's completing, the municipality here is addressing its comprehensive zoning bylaw, which is the more detailed identification of the zoning for various properties, whether it be, Inverhuron, whether it's, the conversation about whether it is a secondary urban development, which allows more development, or should it be a hamlet because there's not the complete municipal services available. So everyone has a responsibility to check the website, to find out, contact our office and say, has there been a change in my property? Am I still residential, or are there zoning changes close to me? Are we going to see significant or intensive housing developments constructed in a particular area near me? Because that is, many of these planning documents are about the ability of municipalities to increase the density of housing, to build housing where there's services already, and not just spend millions expanding our infrastructure.
That's a very good point, because over in Grey County, where I work, we discovered that right across the road was a 36-house subdivision.
Yep.
Nobody knew it.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, what had been a 100-acre farm is now, oh my goodness, 36. There's going to be 36 big homes in there, and it's all wells and septics, so there's no demand on no infrastructure demand. But everyone in the little hamlet was absolutely surprised. And but you've got to check this out and keep an eye on those planning documents because of those changes.
There are notifications issued at various points in the planning process, but with mail that comes, oh yeah, another flyer, and you throw that in the round file, and away it goes. Only to discover that was the most important document you should have read all year.
The other thing is that if you have an address on record through the registry office or the municipality, it better be the correct one.
Yes.
Because if you don't, then you may not get that important mail.
Yeah.
Piece of mail.
So there are a lot of factors that go into the proposed changes that any council or planning staff will recommend as strategic goals change, as a council comes into their own and understands both the challenges and the benefits, say, of affordable housing. With that name, affordable housing, comes the stigma, the perception that, oh my gracious me, the quality of my neighborhood is going to go down. Well, that's generally not the case at all. It is there might be some scenarios in significantly large areas, but there are surplus municipal properties that are of great value in our efforts to provide affordable housing for broad ranges of people in our community. It is the like starter homes. It's for service industry workers. It is for, I had a conversation with a company just the other day where their product is desperately needed. They provide a living wage, but in this day and age, living wage is hardly enough to survive on. And the whole conundrum they face is, we have this product we need to deliver. People want our product. They're demanding our product, but we can't afford, like the workers that work here can't afford to buy a house. So the zoning bylaws are the opportunity for communities to make available multiple residential, multiple commercial, multiple industrial opportunities that maybe hadn't been there in the past, but are critical, vital right now.
Very true. Very true. And with the expansion of Bruce Power, which is continually growing. We just saw an example of the new isotope production line that's just been announced, or I guess completed. The demand is going up. The demand is just increasing.
Grey Bruce, Huron County, is part of the clean energy frontier.
Yep.
We'll see enormous industrial, pharmaceutical changes, industrial changes, energy changes. So many commercial and industrial opportunities here that it's not just Ontario and Canada that's looking at it. It's worldwide, David. It is phenomenal. I think the term that Mike Renchek used was a hub, a commercial industrial hub, and that's what Grey Bruce and Huron counties have become.
Yep. Yeah. And the necessity for housing is an ongoing issue. I encounter this in every single municipality, in every conversation with every elected politician that I do on this show. Yeah. Housing is important, but it's not the $1 million homes. It's the places to live for people who are earning a living wage. It's affordable accommodation.
Yeah.
It's the missing middle.
The surprising part about all of that, it starts with the dull, dry zoning, comprehensive zoning bylaw and the official plans documents that on a day-to-day basis you would slough them off and not worry a minute about it. But without those documents being well planned and in place, the options for all those housing alternatives just disappears.
Absolutely. Now, I recall in a previous conversation, I gather there were some objections out of South Bruce Peninsula about septic inspections and septic things. Did that ever get resolved in the official planning documents?
I know that that conversation continues. There are, just like every planning document, there are multiple layers of approval and study. So it's not just as simple, I don't believe, as Bruce County saying, okay, we'll do that. Like there's getting into alignment with the building code. There's getting into alignment with the provincial Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. There's a number of documents that are all required to get aligned before it begins to make sense. But municipalities are faced with from what I perceive as a challenging circumstance where you have to push the rock up the hill. What is crucial and important here doesn't make sense to perhaps people that don't live here and don't understand the context of what our argument is. So I applaud the small communities to say, like, hey, there's an issue here. Let's deal with it.
Yeah. And we have to remember there are 444 municipalities, all of whom have their own unique issues.
Yes, every one of them. Everyone continues. Well, it surprises me the more you get to know neighboring municipalities, there's a lot of similarities, but wow, that's not like what we have to deal with at all.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Everyone has their own unique municipal issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yep. Yeah. So what's the Christmas season going to look like in Kincardine? Are you going
it's going to look pretty festive. We had our downtown Christmas. We lit the Christmas trees a couple of weeks ago there. We have our Santa Claus parade in Kincardine this Saturday afternoon. It starts at 4:00. It will be a great display of lights and music and way lots of kids and parents on the side. And honestly, David, the best Christmas parades ever are the ones where there's a ton of snow falling. So it'll be a great night. Yes. And then in Tiverton on Sunday night, there's the Christmas tree lighting at St. Andrew Park there, and it will be another evening of carol singing and apple cider. And I think there's a special ride coming around through the community too, provided by one of our corporate sponsors.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So it's going to be we can presume that that snow will fall.
Yes, I heard it from a good source.
Yes, so have I.
The CBC weatherman.
Santa will come.
Yes.
And that Christmas and after Christmas it'll be New Year's.
It will be New Year's, and then we get back into budgets again. So if I have opportunity, I'd like to extend best wishes from the municipality of Kincardine to all your listeners for a great Christmas and a happy New Year. I wish for good health and abundance. So there you go.
It's great. Now, is there a levy? Does Kincardine follow the tradition of a mayor's levy at New Year's?
I attend a levy that is hosted by our Legion in Kincardine.
Okay.
So we had a levy last year, a mayor's levy at the Davidson Center. There are not plans for that this year, so it is. It might not be a yearly tradition, but one of those things that if our municipal staff can squeak in one more thing. But seriously, I'm conscious of those efforts too. It is another Saturday that they lose the time with family. So that's not what any employer wants to do. So we'll likely just go with the more traditional levy.
Okay. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left, and I was going to ask you one last thing. Are you a surfer?
Do you mean internet or water?
Water.
No, if the water comes up past the tip of my nose, I drown.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
I came across this in my preparation for this show. I came across a reference to Kincardine as one of the surfing capitals of Canada.
Yep, we're in the top 3 in Canada for surfing destinations. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, have you indulged in surfing, or can you see people surfing from your office or anything like that?
Well, not from my office, but there are mixed blessings to being a lakeshore community. The swells and the water that makes diving off our pier so dangerous is what actually generates the waves that make surfing so good here. So we frequently have, and this is the time of the year when surfers love to come, when the waters get choppy and the wind's up a bit and the waves are roaring in, and you'll see brave men and women paddling out and just flying in back towards the shore again. It is quite exhilarating. I'm sure if you're on the board, quite frightening if you're standing on the pier watching. So
you're not an adrenaline junkie?
No, I get my adrenaline from a good mug of hot chocolate. That'll do it for me.
Well, it's one of those things. You learn something new every day. I had not realized Kincardine was a surfing capital, but it is. And when you think about it, Lake Huron, which is also part Lake Michigan, Lake Huron is a big Great Lake. It is a huge body of water. So that with those prevailing winds, makes some sense.
I think the other notable example is Tofino off Vancouver Island. So, like they even have a larger body of water out to the west of them. So that's.
Well, with that, Kenneth, I want to thank you for being a part of Politically Speaking today. It's always a pleasure to talk, and best wishes to you for the season. And dare I say it, happy surfing.
Yeah, thanks very much, David. A great time.
And you, friends, thank you for joining us here on Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
This is Rogers TV. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
All crew.
This is my favorite part.
You see that jagged rock?
They say it's haunted by mermaids.
To be a yachty, you need to have thick skin. I thought I was doing the right thing.
It's a bit harsh.
You need to stop.
Does anyone know where Steph is? Get him back here now.